Absolutely. A fresh coat of paint, ROI-wise, can go a really long way. It just refreshes everything, make the house feel light and bright. A lot of times, I showed a house earlier this week, actually, and every room was a different color, and a lot of the bedrooms were multicolors. So one wall was pink, one was purple, and in the same room, and the other wall was yellow. And you're like, for buyers, it can be a little overwhelming. And if somebody would just take the time and just kind of repaint and refresh the house and brighten it up, get rid of that dark color. One of the rooms was mostly like a really dark blue, and the whole room felt small and heavy. Just refreshing with paint can be a huge ROI and a really good selling.
Welcome to Albuquerque Real Estate Talk, episode 557, nearing the end of October 2025. And this week, Tracy and Asel, we're going to talk about remodeling and return on investment and joy. We're going to talk about the joy factor of doing projects in your home. So we'll get into that. Asel, you've got a great question that we're going to talk about regarding, for a home buyer, a question that they're asking. And I think it's good. It's not a yes/no question, but it really makes you think about, okay, where you're at if you're thinking about buying a home right now. And then I also just had one stat I wanted to share. Only one. I know there's many to choose from, but we're going to talk about Zillow's home value forecast looking out a year from now, and they've gone a little more positive, so we'll get into that.
That's good stuff. So here we are, Venturi Realty Group, a real broker. Best way to reach us, 505-448-8888. And we're online, welcomehomeabq.com, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, whatever way works best for you. So we want to just say welcome again to Asel Venturi, who's been joining us lately on our podcast. And otherwise, Tego and Tracy here with Venturi Realty Group. We obviously have a whole team of people helping buyers and sellers. So if we can help you, please reach out. And we would love to be your resource for real estate. Tego, let's jump right into the Zillow story. It's good news.
Yeah, it is. Sam, if you can pull up the screen here. So this is my tracking chart. You can find this actually on my Facebook at Tego Venturi on Facebook. I posted this week. And what it is, it's the Zillow home value forecast, where they look at what they project home values will be a year from now. And in this case, we're looking at as a percentage. And for the Albuquerque market, they're projecting a 3% increase a year from now.
Right. So this is the 100 largest U.S. markets. And you can see if you're looking online at the chart, but if you're not, we are one of the best performing cities out of the top 100.
Yeah, we're in the top 10 and have been consistently for a few years. We're just a steadier market. We don't see the swings that other markets have seen. The one thing that was interesting about the September numbers versus August is they've gone a little more positive. They've moved up their forecast. So Albuquerque, again, they're saying 3%, nationally 1.8%. Before, they had about 20 markets that they were expecting price declines. Now there's only about 12 markets that are expecting price declines. So Zillow overall, their big brain forecasting people see a little more positive signs for the housing market, and that could have to do with interest rates are coming down.
So I don't know. When I see this chart, I go, okay, we've got people who for the last 2-3 years have been saying, I'm going to wait for interest rates to come down to buy a house. But in the meantime, home prices have continued to rise. So we're looking at this chart saying 1 year from now, the home prices here, home values are expected to be 3% higher. We know interest rates have come down. So great time to buy. And Asel, I know you talked about that last week on the podcast, that October is traditionally
the best time of year to buy.
Right. And that's according to a lot of different statistics. And it's based on how many homes are on the market, how many buyers are in the market, and the time of year. So that's a really, really positive story right there.
Well, and since we're talking about that, I'm gonna go off script a little bit here and talk about the supply of homes. So Asel, you did that Instagram post that you put out there and got a whole lot of activity about October is the best month to buy. And there actually is data to back that up. A couple things have happened. Interest rates have dropped quite a bit over the last month or so and have continued to come down. So that's a good sign. The number of homes on the market has now come off its peak. meaning there's not as many homes on the market right now, but there are way more homes on the market today than there will be a month or 2 months from now. Because from here on out through the rest of the summer into the, rest of, I guess we say fall now, into fall, winter, the number of homes in the market is just going to keep declining. The choices are going to be less as we go all the way up until really March, when we start to see more homes come back on the market, just an overall trend. And so if you're on the fence and thinking about buying, get out there. I know we're realtors, we're just trying to sell people houses, but really we think there's some great opportunities out there.
Well, and homeownership is an important and amazing thing. So it's not that we want to do it for us. We want people to be homeowners, and that's the greatest way to build wealth, right, is through homeownership.
It's by far the number one way that Americans, especially middle class and lower class income folks, build wealth, and generational wealth in particular.
So let's jump into our topic for the week. We've got a theme this week now that we've got some stats and things out of the way.
Right.
So the theme of the week is remodeling, right? So Asel, you have some questions and you're going to go right into it?
Yes. You posted on Facebook earlier a few days ago.
I did.
Does that regularly.
Stir up a conversation.
Yeah, you got a lot of comments on your post. Your post was about windows adding 15% to home value.
Yeah, so there's a television ad, and it's also in their promotional material. I'm not going to mention the window company because I don't want to get sued, but there's a window replacement company said that if you just take the value of your home and add 15% to it, that's how much value those windows are going to increase your home's value. And I went, well, that's just absurd. That doesn't even pass the sniff test. It's just absurd.
I'm sorry, Tego, but I'm the one who's been complaining about that commercial every time it comes
we both
on.
Complain about
and
it.
I said,
To
Tego,
be fair,
you need to do some research on this because
Yeah.
you like to do research, right?
Yeah, and so what I found is we just know right off the bat, okay, you got a $400,000 house and you put windows in it, the value didn't suddenly jump up $60,000.
No.
It doesn't work that way. No, it's not.
So what projects do add value?
Well, let's get to that, but I just want to tell you what I found about this 15% claim. On the website, there's a reference that says internal survey of realtor and builders is what they're claiming, is what they're saying. There's no methodology published anywhere. There's no record of this internal survey. So unfortunately it's just a marketing thing that is
Misleading.
It's misleading, and it's like, yeah, windows are a great thing to do for a home if they need it.
I just sold a house in Corrales, Tego. We helped the seller. It was 2 weeks ago. It closed and new buyers. And it had original windows, and it definitely was something buyers noticed. I had at least 2 or 3 different realtors calling saying, are those original windows? And it was a yes, but everything else in the house was updated. New cabinets, new lighting, new flooring, new kitchen, new appliances, newer HVAC, newer water heater. It had just had a new roof put on a month ago. So the windows were something people were looking at, but it didn't change. The house was purchased for the price comparable to other properties.
Yeah.
And what you just listed off makes it seem like there was other projects that were focused on that.
Well, yeah, and so I'll pull it up here. There's a survey done by an outfit called Zonda. They've been doing this for years, and it's a cost versus value analysis. And Zonda's a research company in the housing world. And they put together a thing, and they basically give you a percentage based on the cost versus your return over your return, ROI, as we say, return on investment, for all different types of projects. And so, and this chart.
I was going to say, you must love this chart, Tego.
I know, it is quite the
If
chart.
you're not online, it's like tons of data.
Well, and so what they're looking at is, like, give you an example here. So they've got kitchen remodel, but they've got it broken down into 3 categories: minor, major, and then also major with upscale things. So a minor kitchen remodel, they're saying costs $27,000 and you might get an extra $30,000 in value. So you're actually recouping 110%. Again, these are averages, right? This is not, it depends on where you're starting, right? If the kitchen is fine, the cabinets are fine, maybe all it needs is countertops and appliances. You don't need to replace all the cabinets also, right, Tracy?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you've done a lot of those remodels, so you would know. So it's interesting to me because the chart shows the Albuquerque area, the mountain region, so the Southwest apparently, and then the national averages, right, for these things.
Yeah.
But like you said, it's what are you starting from to where you're ending up, right? So if you're starting from, I see a variety of things in here, bathrooms, entrances, roof, all the different things in a home. But if you're starting from the roof needs to be replaced and you need to sell your house, is that really an upgrade or is that a maintenance item?
Yeah, it's a maintenance item. A roof, hot water heater, even appliances, HVAC, stuff like that is maintenance. Those are certain things that do just have a certain amount of life and eventually they do need to be replaced. One thing I want to bring up is garage doors. Garage doors always give us this huge ROI where they're saying 286% increase on the cost. So they're saying a garage door costs about $5,000 and you're going to get almost $14,000 in resale value. So Tracy, you saw that and you said, I don't think so.
Well, I understand curb appeal, right? Asel, you were showing houses this week and curb appeal is important, right? But is it really going to be 2.5 times what you've put into a garage door? But I think it's where you start from. How bad did it look to begin with?
Right.
Right? How inoperable and old and ugly was it? So I could see maybe, but it might not just be about the garage door, right?
Well, and then there's other things like exterior, and here they talk about siding. We don't really have siding. We have stucco. They have things like front door. So a lot of those things seem to have pretty good ROI.
They do. I know from showing houses, though. Yes, a decent curb appeal is good. It's that first 10, 15 seconds walking through the front door, though, that I think for a buyer really motivates them because that to them is really important. And that's where the feel of the home and the quality of the home and the attention of detail of the sellers really emotionally affect them.
So would you say that focusing on exterior projects might outperform doing a kitchen remodel or bathroom?
That's an interesting question to sell because some of the statistics will say that exterior updates will outperform interior updates. And I think, Tego, it's that whole, if the curb appeal is so bad, they won't even go in the front door.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I think it's a holistic thing. It's not black and white. It really depends on what you're starting with. Like Tracy said, if the front of the house is a mess, not a mess, it could be as a matter of just trimming and cleaning up the front yard, right? A curb appeal will always matter when you're selling your home, no matter what, forever and ever.
And one of the things about exterior is a lot of homeowners are capable of doing something on the exterior themselves without having to spend a lot of money or hiring people, right? Like you said, weeds, trimming, maybe painting trim. A lot of times around garage doors and things, we see it all weathered here in New Mexico, the beautiful sun. Just doing a few things, maybe even just repainting the front door and making sure it's clean can make a huge difference. And the ROI on that could be really high because it's mostly practically free. Just some sweat labor.
If you're getting ready to sell, what should you focus on regarding remodeling?
Yeah, I think that's a good question because we've said it a lot. Number one thing you can do is clean and trim the yard, clean up the yard. We were just talking about curb appeal, but cleaning is the number one ROI you can get. It costs you nothing but time and some chemicals, right? Some paper towels.
That reminds me, Tego, of last weekend. You spent hours cleaning.
Yeah.
And you were cleaning tops of baseboards. You were cleaning walls.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thank you for doing that.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
had to be done.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I would say is painting, again, if it needs it, right, Tracy?
Absolutely. A fresh coat of paint, ROI-wise, can go a really long way. It just refreshes everything, make the house feel light and bright. A lot of times, I showed a house earlier this week, actually, and every room was a different color, and a lot of the bedrooms were multicolors. So one wall was pink, one was purple, and in the same room, and the other wall was yellow. And you're like, for buyers, it can be a little overwhelming. And if somebody would just take the time and just kind of repaint and refresh the house and brighten it up, get rid of that dark color. One of the rooms was mostly like a really dark blue, and the whole room felt small and heavy. Just refreshing with paint can be a huge ROI and a really good selling point.
The other thing would be look at deferred maintenance if you're getting ready to sell. If there is deferred maintenance, we talked about roofs earlier. So if it needs a roof, it's going to come up at some time during the home selling process.
Right. It's either going to be a negative of how much you're going to get your house for if somebody's willing to take on the roof in that condition, or get it taken care of, right? Get it redone when it's necessary.
So what if you want to be your own Chip and Joanna and stay in your home? And we're going to talk about joy.
Well, Chip and Joanna flip houses, no, but that's a good example because they make houses very livable, right? They don't necessarily do it just for return on investment.
Yeah, if you want to just stay in your home and you're not ready to sell, but you want to vamp it up.
Yeah, so that's where we talk about the joy factor. When you're going to put a swimming pool in, when you're going to put in what we saw earlier on that chart, an upscale major kitchen remodel because you love to cook, right? Like Sam's a great cook, right? If you decide you want to put professional big appliances in and do a $80,000 kitchen remodel, realize that you're doing that for your joy factor. And if and when you decide to sell, that probably isn't going to have an ROI on it, but hopefully you've enjoyed it while you've lived in the home. And one of the things I see a lot, Tego, when we work with home sellers is they plan to do some remodeling and upgrades and refreshing the home for sale. And I'm like, you always wanted that done the whole time you lived here. Now you're going to do it for the next client, right? The next owner. Like, get it done, enjoy it while you live there.
Yeah.
Don't do it for the next buyer unless we really need to do that to maximize your home sale.
So NAR, I'm gonna read this here. So I've got the chart up, but NAR, National Association of Realtors, does a research study every year, and they talk about one thing they look at is the joy score for remodeling projects. So
I love that joy score.
Yeah, it's your joy score. It's like, well, how much joy are you going to get out of, having this done? And this isn't necessarily for the person that's getting ready to sell, right? This is for somebody that's going to be in the home. And so adding a primary bedroom suite. So that would be upgrading into a true primary suite.
With an ensuite bath is what I think they're talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Kitchen upgrade.
Wait a minute, Tego.
Okay.
Look at this chart for you that are not online looking at it.
Mm-hmm.
The first three things listed here are a 10 out of 10 for joy, right? The next one is a 9.8, 9.7. These are things that really bring joy. So go ahead.
Well, and then kitchen upgrade, right? The way Americans live, most Americans live in their kitchen most of the time, except when they're sleeping.
The house I showed yesterday, they were like, yeah, we'll make that dining room like an office or something because we're just going to sit on bar stools at the island. I'm like, yep, that's how we live these days, right?
Yeah, so kitchen upgrades can bring a lot of joy if it's, again, it depends. I mean, it could already be great, but that one has a lot of joy. New roof, which I always find interesting,
It's funny.
Always comes up on this survey, is a new roof brings joy. I guess that's because you don't have to worry about it
Peace of
leaking.
mind.
And I can't imagine spending money on a new roof would make me have joy, except that if I had water leaking through all the time.
Okay.
But
all right.
okay.
All right. Side note story. Just put a new roof on our office building here.
Did it bring you great joy?
It did bring me comfort and joy that it got done. Got a little more insulation up there now. So yes, okay. It brought me a little joy, I gotta say. It did.
A
A
relief.
10 out of 10, though?
A little
Come on.
relief.
Yeah. What else? Like bathrooms, of course. People love like updated bathrooms and having a nice bathroom.
Complete kitchen renovation.
Yeah, so that's like doing a major renovation on a kitchen and not just some updates. Wood flooring, that's something a lot of people really like.
Painting one interior room. I can imagine if you spend a weekend with your significant other or family doing a nice painting project together, that the activity in addition to having a refreshed room could feel really
I know you
good.
love painting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a funny story, right? When we were dating, didn't I tell you I would help you with your remodeling, anything but paint?
But you've done
And
a
that's
lot
like
of painting
how
over the
much
years.
painting you've had me do over the years. Yeah.
I've had you do, yes.
You've enlisted me despite you knowing that's like my least favorite thing in remodeling. I'd much rather use a hammer or a saw or a drill, whatever. But okay, painting it is.
So let's move on. I'm going to ask why people remodel and how do people pay for it?
I'm glad you asked.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. No, actually, in the NAR study, they asked that question, and why do people remodel is 27% upgrade worn-out finishes and materials, right? It's maintenance. It's
Deferred maintenance.
Yeah, it's deferred maintenance to keeping up on your house, right? Improve energy efficiency. It's interesting because energy efficiency does not come up high on the joy list, which is surprising. Maybe it's just because everything is so much more energy efficient today than it was even 20 years ago that we don't think about it quite as much.
Or maybe in our part of the country where our temperatures aren't quite so extreme one way or another, the energy costs aren't so significant for many of us that it's just not high on people's list.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And then the other was 18% say it was just time for a change. They wanted to refresh. We've done that in our house. I think most people
many
have.
times.
Yeah, we've lived there 25 years, so yes, definitely have.
Yep.
And then also people do it they're preparing to sell, which we've been talking about, 18%. But financing, Tracy, there's different ways if somebody wants to finance a remodel project. What are some options for people?
Well, not everybody finances. There's this thing called cash.
Yep.
So some people actually pay cash. And actually what we know is some of the contractors do a discount for cash. Some don't take credit. But a lot of times people get construction loans, right? Remodeling loans from a typical mortgage lender. And it needs an appraisal to show that the future value will be better because of the money spent and that the house can justify the amount of the remodel.
Yep.
And there's loans for it.
Yeah, and then there's home equity line of credit, which you can always do as well, where if you have a lot of equity, or not even a lot of equity, if you have equity in your home, you can borrow against that to do those upgrades.
Yeah.
And again, be smart with your money and don't overborrow and don't overspend and get yourself in a bad situation. But yeah, those are some options.
Tracy mentioned the appraised value. Just brought me back to your Facebook post, and you had some comments talking about solar.
Yeah, actually, I'm glad you brought that up. So again, we're back to this whole conversation of what adds value. Solar power, obviously, it's a big deal. A lot of people doing it, a lot of good solar companies out there, but there's also some solar companies that make some claims that are just absurd. And one of them that I've warned people about before is there's companies that have a leased or what they call a power purchase agreement where you don't really own the system. It's on your home, but you're basically paying a leasing company to use that system. And if you're getting one of those systems and somebody claims that adds value to your home, that's 100% false. In fact, the Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac guidelines specifically say those systems have zero value if it's depending on the financing part.
Well, and what we know from a home sale process is if you have leased solar, that really limits your pool of buyers. There are many buyers who are not interested in having leased solar and taking on your lease. And some buyers won't even qualify because the amount of your home, the amount of the lease payment every month gets added to what they can afford. And sometimes you can't afford that.
Yeah, and unfortunately with solar, just even if you outright purchase it, that you're not, if you put solar on your house right away, there is a long time for there to be payoff on that because you're reducing your power bill, you're reducing your electric bill, but you're not going to get that right away, and you're not going to turn around and resell the home for what you paid extra for what you paid for that solar. That's just unfortunately that math doesn't work.
Right.
Well said.
Although we do know of someone who did it themselves, right? They had the electrical pre-plumbed when they bought their house. They bought their own panels. They talked to experts and they did it themselves. Their cost to payoff and return of investment probably is much better than a lot of
Oh,
people's.
for sure, yeah.
But in general, lease solar can be a problem upon sale.
Yeah, and we want to be really careful not to conflate
Conflate?
leased solar with just buying a solar system for your house, because they're two different things.
Right.
It's how it's financed is what creates most of the problems, and that's
The defining.
the leased or the power purchase agreements. Yeah.
I know what question I wanted to ask you. What projects for remodeling either don't add value, might take away value? What are your thoughts that you've seen?
Can I go first?
Sure.
Mine are poorly done remodels or updates. Maybe the weekend warrior that goes to the home store and says, hey, I'm going to redo the floor in this room. And they put it in, they don't level the floor properly. They do, let's say, subpar workmanship. Those things actually take value away from the home when they're done poorly. And it could be a do-it-yourselfer, but it could be a remodeler that just does a poor job. And so poorly done DIY projects or just projects in general can be one that can be an issue.
Yeah. Sometimes I've seen the DIY projects incomplete also, and that's tough, right? Another one, Tego, that came to mind for me is when we see garage conversions. A lot of times we see a 2-bedroom house or a 3-bedroom house where they take the 1-car garage. Generally, sometimes it's the 2-car garage, and they make it another room, and it still has that step down into it. And you walk in and you immediately go, oh, this is the garage that they're trying to make as a bedroom or a new living room. And it's like, wait, but it's really a garage, and it's poorly done. And a lot of times the garage is more valuable than that extra room.
One thing I've seen, and let me jump to the next one. Yeah, so that's a big one. We see a lot of that in Albuquerque. The other one is converting a bedroom into a closet. So you're taking a 4-bedroom house and making one of the rooms into a closet because you want this big grand closet. Well, that's fine if you like it, but you're not adding value to the home.
Yeah. Well, and another one, and again, this is relating to our joy factor conversation, right? Swimming pool. So a lot of times people feel like if they add a swimming pool, it's going to add value to the home. And it might add some value, but probably not what it costs to put in a swimming pool, especially these days. So
yeah, and I would say that's true with fancy landscaping as well. Again, the solar photovoltaic system, again, it's going to give you joy. It's going to help with your energy bill, but you're not going to get the full return on what you put into it. But again, if that's what you want, that's fine.
yeah.
And then one of the other thing I've seen is where somebody spends a lot of money on some high-end things, maybe appliances, maybe light fixtures, maybe faucets.
Or even some
fine.
of the like stone countertops where they do a high quality quartz or granite, like top of the line, very beautiful, unique. That's the joy factor right there.
That's the joy factor, and it depends on the house, right? Putting those high-end things in a $2 million house, that's just expected, versus putting it in a $400,000 house, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you just have to make smart decisions. And the best thing is, if either you're in your home and you're planning to stay in your home, you want to make good decisions, reach out to us. We'd be happy to talk to you about it and give you some ideas. And of course, if there's people are thinking to sell, Tracy, they should definitely talk to us first.
Yeah. And we've seen that where people call us after they've made a few remodeling projects, and then they call us to sell the house, and we're like, I don't think that's going to help your value, but yay. But talk to us first, because we can help consult. Should you do this, or should you do that, or should you do both, or should you do none? Let's talk about it, because we don't want you wasting time, energy, money if it's not really going to help you. So,
Great.
okay.
Let's move on to
Yeah, the big question.
yeah.
All right. Here is the question of the week.
Okay.
How much should you compromise on location, size, or condition to get into the market now? And what's worth holding out for?
Well, this is for a buyer, and they're thinking of, maybe they don't know now, I'm guessing. They're thinking of getting into the market. Their finances may be tight, and they're trying to go, okay, should I compromise and just buy something that I don't really want long term? Or what type of compromises should I make? I guess that's the question. What do you think, Tracy? What would you say you've heard?
I had a variety of thoughts listening to the question and potential answers. So in general, I think back to people who have stretched themselves to buy the right house. And in the long run, it has worked for them because their earnings have increased and the value of the home has increased and they're comfortable in their home. But then there are people who just get a house, get something that'll work for you, whatever you're comfortable with and can afford. And maybe you just think of it as your first house, right? And it might be the stepping stone to your second house because it will build some equity, which when you sell, you have more funds to maybe get the house of your dreams, that your income has grown, your net worth has grown, and you can step up to the right house. And then there are others, that's why I said all sorts of thoughts. Then there are others who use that first home. They just get a first home that they know will be a very good rental in the future. And they say, this is my first home that's going to be my future rental. And then when they're in a better position to buy another home, that's their next home. So there's a lot of different ways to look at that answer.
Yeah, and when you say future rental, you mean future investment.
Right.
They
keep it.
Investing.
They keep
exactly.
it as an investment property to grow their wealth even further.
Well, when I think about this question of, okay, should I just jump into the market now and either stretch myself financially or compromise? I think those are two different things.
Yeah.
Right? So maybe you're stretching yourself financially. You're right at your limit of what you're comfortable with. And I think the reality is most of the time when people get in the market, they have a budget in mind until they start looking, and then their budget gets stretched a little bit, just because they're not finding what they want with what they want to pay. Right? Always. If it was just based on what we want to pay, it would be a lot easier.
Yeah.
But it's not, unfortunately.
And a lot of people don't compromise, right? They do stretch the budget to get what's going to make them happy, the joy factor.
The joy factor. Back to the joy factor. I think the other thing, though, is the trade-offs, right? So what are you willing to trade off? Is it the location? Maybe, obviously, we know in the Albuquerque area, there's certain locations that are more affordable than other locations, right? It's just given. Maybe it's the size of the home. Maybe it's the number of bathrooms, the number of bedrooms, things like that.
I had one just last week, Tego, where they absolutely needed backyard access because they had something that they wanted to park in the backyard. And in the end, it was like, yeah, we want the right house, and we're going to put our trailer in storage.
Yeah. Well,
so they compromised.
Yeah. Well, another compromise might be the condition of the home. So you're willing to take on a home that maybe is dated, as we call it, that hasn't been updated in a while, that has good bones, as we say, but needs some updating, and maybe you're handy and you feel like you can add that sweat equity by doing some work yourself. So that's another compromise that can be made. But for some people, that's a do not cross, right? They do not want to. They want to move in ready. They don't want any maintenance. They don't want to do anything. And in that case, maybe they want new construction because there's some options there.
Totally. And a lot of times new construction is just as affordable as that house you're looking at because of the incentives, the lower utility costs, the lower maintenance over time can be a very good option. What's interesting when we are having this conversation is I'm also thinking about how what they think up front when we start looking for houses versus the reality. How those things can shift very quickly of my must-haves, my wants, and what I'm willing to give up, right? It can change drastically when you realize that maybe buying that house that's dated or has purple walls or whatever, going, okay, this is in the right neighborhood, the right school district. It might be the dog of the neighborhood, but I can make it beautiful, and I guess I can do some sweat equity to make it my own to be in the right spot.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, we covered a lot today. I know there's a lot on remodeling. Best thing to do if you're again, Tracy, you already said it, but I'm going to say it again, is if you're thinking about doing some updates or remodels in your house, reach out to us. It doesn't matter if you're not going to sell right away. We'd be happy to help. Like, we're your realtors for life, not just for when you're getting ready to sell. So just give us a shout and let us know. Asel, thank you for the questions. Appreciate it. Really, I like that compromise question because it really made me think. So, Tracy, if people want to get a hold of us,
Hey, give us a call, 448-8888, here in the 505, of course, or get online, welcomehomeabq.com, and you can reach out to us through that. But of course, the phone is always best. We're here, we're available, and we have a great team ready to help you.
okay. What do we think? Two disjointed?